So would it surprise you to know that 10% of women over the age of 40 already have diabetes? And then that risk increases every single decade as we get older. Well, it shouldn't. 1 in 10, that's a big number. And I'm going to be going into why that is. But first, I want to let you know about Premier Wellness and a special that we're doing for Valentine's Day 2023. Anyone who registers for one of our 3 signature solutions will get either a $25, $50, or $100 gift certificate. So be sure to do that before the end of February 2023. Now, let's get into the real nitty-gritty of why we have that increased risk of diabetes as we get older. And the reason we're talking about this today is because that's one of the number one questions I get or concerns that I hear from the women that I work with. Am I going to get diabetes as I get older? Is it just sitting there looming, waiting for me over the skyline? And I'm going to say, we just looked at those numbers, 1 in 10. So perhaps it is. But what are the things that are making it more likely as we're getting older? And why does it start around age 40, 45? Well, we know one of them, right? At that age, this is when we start going into perimenopause, menopause, if we haven't already, right? And the 2 main hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are very intimately related with our insulin regulation and our blood sugar. So estrogen specifically is very important for insulin sensitivity. And I've talked about this before. We need our cells in our bodies to be sensitive to insulin. What is insulin doing? It is pulling the blood sugar out of our bloodstream and escorting it into the cells where it can help the cells, right? So it's taking it out of the bloodstream, which is where it gets measured as high or low blood sugar, and putting it in the cells where it can work. Now, if insulin is resistant, then if we have an insulin resistance, then it can't get into the cells, and our blood sugar in the bloodstream increases more and more. So as our estrogen levels start decreasing, we start seeing that more and more. With progesterone is not as directly linked, but it also has that rate. And what we're seeing is that sometimes higher levels of progesterone, and there's some recent studies showing that, will increase insulin resistance, as well as that lower levels of estrogen. So remember, this can be a little tricky, that it's not just the absolute number. Say estrogen used to be, we're just making a number up, 10, and now it's 1 in our menopausal state. It's not just that. It's also the ratio of estrogen to progesterone. Which one is in a different ratio? Do we have that estrogen dominance we talked about before? So that's one reason that we may be more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. A second thing is weight gain, right? That's another thing we struggle with, and there are so many different reasons for that. And that's one of the reasons why you need a personalized approach to weight loss many times after 40 or 45 to 50. And it's because there are so many different reasons that this could be. So one of the main things that we see is that our activity levels may decrease. Now that's a very simple thing to understand. We're not moving as much. We're maybe sitting behind a computer desk more frequently, as our businesses get bigger, as our work gets more involved. We're sitting more throughout the day. So we're not as much as active as we used to be. But there are some other things as well. Now remember, we just talked about estrogen and menopause and perimenopause. Well, raise your hand if perimenopause and menopause has been difficult for you, has been a little bit of a stress on you. The hot flashes, the poor sleep, the mood swings. Well, what do all of those things have in common on our body? They have in common stress, right? And we've talked about how stress affects our lives. As we get more stressed, our cortisol levels increase. One of the things we see with cortisol on a long term is weight gain. And where is that weight gain often? Around our belly. So that's why a lot of times it's so difficult for us to hold on to. We have that weight that's right around our bellies, and it's so hard to get rid of. We got the stress going on with the cortisol, and we also have the estrogen with the insulin resistance, both of which cause us to hold on to fat around our bellies, right? Family history is another big one. Now, I say this because it's not just, Mom had diabetes, I had diabetes. If that was the case, we could all just, wipe our hands and just throw them up and say that's the end of it. That's not true. We know that. We know that we can do something about insulin resistance, the risk of diabetes, by how we live. Are we moving more? Are we watching what we're eating? Are we lowering our stress? These simple things can change our risk for diabetes. So that's another last thing. And then finally, we have ethnicity. That's another reason why. So there are some ethnic groups, Black African Americans, Hispanics, the native tribes of this America, like the Inuits and those here in the continental United States. Many of these ethnic groups have a higher risk of diabetes. So again, am I saying that this is absolutely something that's going to happen? No way. We want to be able to know that the risk is there and then know what to do about it. So we all let's be honest, we kind of know already the general things that we need to do. We need to move more. We need to eat elite. Remember, eat the right foods for us at this time in our life. We need to reduce our stress. We need to know our numbers. What are your glucose numbers? What are your insulin numbers? What is your hemoglobin A1C? That's that long term of glucose management. We want to know these numbers because when we know, we have that information, then we are empowered to move forward. So these are the simple things, and then loving ourselves, because, eat, move, live, and love. Those 4 that we have here in Premier Wellness. So those are the 4 things. And know, after everything we've just talked about, does the risk of diabetes increase as we get older? Yes, it does. The risk does. But does the certainty of diabetes increase as we get older? And the answer to that is no. So as I mentioned, for our special, for the month of February, our Valentine's Day special through the end of February, join for one of our 3 signature solutions for energy, weight, and or hormones, and get a gift card. So I look forward to speaking with you soon. Check us out, look on the links below, and we'll be speaking soon. Have a great day.